Okay, today we're going to be taking apart the Nokia Lumia 920. So it's not a very difficult phone to take apart, but there's a lot of components that have to be removed to get the motherboard out and whatnot. So first we'll turn it off. We're going to need a few screwdrivers, 3 of them to be exact, a T5, a T4 hex or Torx, and a T2, which I don't have here right now, but I'll grab it in a sec. Also a safety pin or the SIM card tool that comes with the phone, which I've lost, so I'm using a safety pin. So let's remove the SIM card. Okay, now we're going to remove the 2 screws at the bottom of the phone with the T5 screwdriver. Now we're going to remove the back of the phone, separate the backing off the front. So to do that, we're going to need a plastic opening tool. You could use a metal one, but I would not recommend it because you might scratch up your housing. So just start by sticking a pick or a plastic opening tool into the side of the phone and releasing the clips that are holding it in. You can push pretty firmly, just be careful that you don't push against the screen too much. Just go all the way around, get the bottom, the sides. Usually it doesn't take this much effort, but this one has never been opened before, so it's a little bit tighter, but it's not that hard to do. Just keep working at it. See, once it starts to lift off, then you can start trying to pry it, but if it's not coming out, then keep going with the tool and loosen up those clips. Okay, once you have it up like this, then slowly lift it up. Don't lift it right off, just carefully turn it around because there's the charger port flex cable is plugged into the motherboard still. There's a little metal plate covering the connector. Just lift it up and then unplug the flex cable. As you can see, to change the charger port on this phone, you don't need to solder much. You just you can buy the replacement charger port. It comes with the flex cable and you plug it into the motherboard. Right here you have the wireless charger, and then you have the headphone jack up at the top. Some antennas there. And obviously the physical buttons here on the side. Okay, now let's get to the insides. So there's a few screws, not too much, but first of all we're going to remove this connector. Okay, that connector is the volume buttons, power buttons, and camera button. Also it has the electronic compass. If you're having issues with that, you can replace this part. Okay, so we're going to pry up this metal shield here. Make sure you hold on to the battery connector underneath. You do not want to rip that one in half. Okay, and then you can go ahead and unplug the battery. Now we're going to use the T4 screwdriver to remove this screw here. Now this clip we got to remove before removing the battery. There's no real magic to it, just wiggle it out, it'll come out eventually. It's sometimes it comes out easier than other times, but just get it out. Okay, now once that's out, you can put it aside. If you bent it or anything, just bend it back how it was. Now we can put the battery out. There we are. It's a 2000 milliamp hour battery. It's not bad. Okay, so there's 3 little tiny screwdrivers on the motherboard. These are the T2. You have to use a T2 to get these out. We're not going to lose these, of course. They're very easy to lose, but very important, so don't lose them. Okay, once those are out, we're going to be separating the entire frame. See, the motherboard is attached to this flex cable. Okay, so you got to be very careful with that. And there's 2 screws here. There should be 3, but the Nokia has always left 1 out. I don't know why. I've done 3 or 4, and it's the same thing. So there's only 2 screws here on the side. They're T4. So you're going to move those out of the way. And of course, if you do have the 3rd screw in there, get that out too. Okay, this is the antenna cable. You don't have to necessarily unplug it, but I'm going to unplug it just for demonstration's purpose. There's 2 clips at the bottom that also will need to come loose in order to get this this metal assembly off the screen. Okay, so work these clips loose. It's not that hard, it's just 2 clips, just don't break them. Just take your time at this step here. You don't want to pry everything out. Now one thing we'll actually do first, and I failed to do this before, but is unplug the LCD digitizer connectors. That's what these are at the bottom. Remove this little red piece. Okay, and then unplug the top connector, and then you have to pry up the second connector and it folds over, and then there's a last connector in there. I wouldn't recommend a metal opening tool unless you're super careful. Use a plastic one if you can. This will make it easier to remove this assembly now. Removing those clips will allow you to separate the metal frame from the actual motherboard membrane. You don't need to do that though. You preferably want to keep it all together. Okay, so I think one of the clips here at the bottom has caught back on. That's what it was, yep. So once we get this clip out, it should pop right off. Okay, that's perfect. So you see three pieces here basically, but they all should stay together. Right here you have the loudspeaker in this metal frame, and up there you have the SIM card remover hinge. Okay, now as you can see the motherboard, this is the little earpiece here, by the way. You don't want to lose that. As you can see, the motherboard is attached to this whole flex cable. You got the SIM card slot. You do not want to break this ribbon here, because you're not getting it back on if you do. Okay, so that's part of the motherboard. Okay, you got a bunch of stuff here on this membrane. You got the microphone, the front camera. You know, you have the connectors, all the connectors for the LCD and digitizer go through this cable. So keep it together. We'll start putting it back together. I'll show you how to do that. Basically, you don't want this whole piece to keep falling apart. By the way, this is where the camera goes. It's not hard to remove. I'm not going to go into how to remove it, but it's self-explanatory once you get to it. So we can put the speaker back. It can only go in one way. So if it's not going in, turn it around. Okay. Now you can place the motherboard over there. The only thing I'm forgetting here is the SIM card tray cover. Just make sure it's lined up perfectly. You don't want it falling apart. So the SIM card tray cover just goes, it can only really go one way, so just figure it out. You can see from the video basically how it goes. Okay, now fold the motherboard down over it. Make sure it's well lined up and it's snug. And put that aside, and this is the screen assembly, by the way. I'm not going to go into taking the glass off right now, but it just applies some heat. It's the same as anything else. It's not that hard to do. Now the LCD, unfortunately, I believe it comes out only after you've taken the glass off. I don't think you can remove the LCD first. But yeah, changing the glass on these is not very hard. It's just a matter of applying enough heat and removing the old one and putting a new one on. But yeah, that's about it for that. So let's start putting it back together. So we'll make sure those connectors are over top of this assembly. You don't want the assembly to squish the connectors because they go over top. So slide it in from the left. Push it in. Just clip in those side clips. You'll hear them snap. Clip in the two bottom ones. Just make sure everything's snug. Now, first plug in the what I believe here is the LCD, and then you fold over the next connector. The two-way tape will hold it down, and then you plug in the last connector here. Make sure it's all snug here. Okay, plug this connector back in for the power button. Now I'm going to test, make sure the SIM card is working properly, so stick in the SIM card there and test it out. You don't want to put it all together and then find out that it's not even going in or out. So test the SIM card slot. Yep, it's working perfectly. Just make sure that the cover stays there. For some reason, there's nothing actually holding it down except the motherboard and the SIM card slot itself. Okay, now once everything is snug, we'll put the battery back in. The top corner goes in first. And then we'll plug in the connector and fold that metal tape over it. And now we'll attach this little red piece here that holds the connector steady. And then we'll put this clip over the battery and the connectors. Now we're going to screw it back in. Okay, screw in that T4 screw and that's it. You're good to go with that. Now we'll put these T4 size screws in the side again. Just tighten them till they start getting snug. Don't over tighten those ones. Now we're going to put the little ones in. Again, don't over tighten these ones. These are the T2, the little tiny screwdriver screws. Again, I'm testing the SIM card slot now that the motherboard is screwed into the frame, just to make sure it works perfectly, and it does, so we're good to go. Okay, now we're ready to plug in the charger port and put the backing on. So don't rip the cable or anything, but you can twist it a little bit. It has a lot of length. You can just do what you need to do. Just plug it in. Okay, you can't see there, right? So I'll turn it around here to show you. So just twist it a little bit, plug it in. Make sure it clips in snugly. Then we'll bring that little metal plate. There's only one way it can go, so just carefully put it back how it should go. If you need to push it down, use a plastic tool to make it stay in snugly. Okay. I forgot to plug in the antenna connectors. So we'll plug those in. Okay, so now that the antenna is plugged in, slide in the screen top first. Top goes in first, and then you just gently push in until you hear all the clips go into place. Obviously you don't want to push too hard on the screen, although Nokia has made an excellent screen on this phone, and it's actually, I would say it's a little bit hard to break. Even if you wanted to break it, it might be a little tough, but either way, don't push hard. Just make sure everything's lined up and power it on to see if it works. Obviously, yep, everything's working here. Make sure all the clips are in place before screwing it in, the last two screws with the T5 screwdriver. and we're done. So that was the Nokia Lumia 920 take apart. I hope you enjoyed it, and if this was helpful, don't forget to